Welcome back to Retro Racer from under the car on the passenger side left front. I haven't had a chance to do much since the last video, just been busy socially and a couple of funerals and so forth to go to, and there's always funerals in Thailand. This section here last time I was a little bit concerned about, and I was going to stitch it back to the floor, but this being Sunday afternoon I just cut a bit more floor out here and had a go and noticed that that section just had to come out. So fortunately all my cordless tools from Australia arrived, including I think it's a vibrating reciprocating type saw attachment that goes on my AEG, or for the US guys, rigid type multi-tool. So I cut that section out there, and then I'll take you to the outside because there's a couple of things I'm not happy about, so I'm going to take the repair a bit further. I'll just pause for a moment. So this section just here, I'll just try and keep out of the portable light. I can see there's rust behind it, and since I've cleaned up with the reciprocating saw to take all the sound deadener and seal it off, I noticed that the rust has decayed in that area in there, made the material quite thin. So I'm going to peel that off, and this web from the main chassis rail, I'm going to cut that section out as well, and I'll put a whole new section in through there. But before I do that, I may well also cut out this inner box section on this side. I've already made the repair panel that you saw in the first video for the inside of that box section. I may replace this section and stitch it back to this being a solid section of firewall just here, just to hold the car in place. And then there's some big dirty great spot welds in there that I'll have to dig out tomorrow. So then I'll hope to replace that as well. So it's taking all a bit longer, but finally the 3M, the TOA rust converter has arrived, and the 3M weld through primer has arrived as well. So I'll be able to do that using all the proper materials. So it's taking longer than I expected, but I just want to do it properly, and as I said, it's my retirement project. So hopefully I'll have some more updates tomorrow afternoon, being Monday afternoon. So from inside the passenger footwell, left hand side, right hand drive car, there's the chassis rail which I've cleaned out and blown out, the gearbox mount that goes right back through the gearbox tunnel and adapts to all the different styles of gearboxes, and there's the box section just here. So now that I can get to all of that and see what I'm doing, and I'll be able to, once all these floors are cut out and all the chassis work is done, then the last thing I'll do is weld the floor back in, so then I can treat as much of all of this as possible. I've also purchased for the 3M wax sealer, or whatever it's called, I've also purchased the wand as well, so I can get right down inside this chassis section, box section here, and seal all that up, and get up in there and seal all that up, as well as using the weld through primer. So a big job, but I'm looking forward to progressing on it. Lots of spot welds in this section. I've only misdrilled one so far. I'm glad I removed that section. Too much rust building up behind there. I'd like this to last me at least 10 years. So there's the inner box section trimmed out and cleaned up. I've deliberately cut it short because, one, there's good material there, and also I want this lower chassis section to act as a doubler for that repair. And where I cut too far to get the section out, I've V'd that out there and there, so I can penetrate weld right up into that. And here's the little section with a bit extra here that I just quickly traced off the old section and cut out. So this inner box section is going to be replaced in inner and outer sections. I'm about to tack that in, and then I'm going to offer up the inside section to see how they mate up. So before I start replacing these inner box sections in here of the front rail, I decided to take this flange off here, off the floor pan box section, because there's just too much rust in between. So it looks like it's been done before, so I just simply had to remove the tack welds or the spot side short, half-inch welds just along the side here, so that I could get to it and rust treat it before these go back in here. I also opened this up a little bit up here, just so I could get the wire wheel in there, give it a good clean out, and give it a coat of anti-rust. And I can see, just looking through the camera here now, I've missed a spot, so I'll retreat that and tap it all back down and start welding those inner box sections in shortly, finally. It's so nice to have my AEG, or for the US folks, rigid cordless tools over here. Our shipment arrived this week, as I said earlier. It's just so nice to have the variety of tools and batteries. So that's just the two inner box sections. I made it in two pieces, roughly held in place with my magnets. So there is a gap under there, but it's not being held correctly, and plus I'll be able to flex that in, and even if there's a couple of mil gap, I'll be able to fill that quite easily. I'll just pause and then show you the inside. And here we are inside. It's as I said, it's not held in place properly with the magnets. You can see just here it's kicked out a bit, so I'll be able to drastically close that up and fill that. I did manage to swage these two just by hand, because my roller didn't arrive in time, so I just roughly swaged those by hand. It may be dual purpose, it may be to stiffen that section up a little bit, and it might also be a drain point as well, so that's why it's swaged down, so any water in there can supposedly run out, and then it runs its way down the chassis, supposedly out of those holes there. But I'll make sure that's all functional when the time comes. So I'm going to start spotting that in. I've put the plug weld holes up the top there, so I'm just going to put a tiny little tack on it and manipulate it a bit, and I'll show you what it looks like. So now that I have this inner box section welded in, mostly welded in, that's the continuation of the main front chassis that the motor subframe bolts onto. I took that off as well, as I said in the previous part of the video, and I just put in a piece of offcut that I've got here, and then from the English chap's channel, I'm sorry, but I can't remember his channel's name at the moment, that's restoring the E30 coupe in his garage. I just borrowed his method of putting a piece of paper up in place, and I held it in place with one of my magnetic squares, and then just using a grubby finger, I just traced around from the inside and the outside, and just above my thumb there you can see there's two lines. That's because this section is sitting up a little, about 3-4 millimeters, so I'll just do some extra material. Now, because I'm restricted to folding 300 mil, or a section no longer than 350 mil in my hand folder, that's why I've done these cutouts, but also just so that the joint is spread out over a greater area as well as removing rusty material. So I think I'm going to, I haven't 100% made my mind up yet, I think I'm going to make this section here in two pieces with a seam up the middle, because right from about there down I'll be able to weld it from the inside as well as from the outside. And that's 2mm section, 2mm sheet steel, measuring from good parts of the old one. Ignore all this rust here, that's going to be done once I've got the car stiffened back up again. So that's how I've ended up with this one here being the left outer, and then I've got to measure up the to the center, including the fold, and probably add a millimetre or two just so I can trim the top of that curved line that matches up to the floor up there, just so I can trim that. The flange for that will get welded on last, whilst I'm still lying here on the ground in my very, very makeshift northern Thailand carport. My shears, my 300mm shear arrived yesterday off Lazada. It's pretty tough going to cut 2mm on it. It will do it, but I'll have to get both my wife and my sister to stand on this section here, so I can, because I'd like to cut the flange on the shears. Just try and minimise cutting with the friction cutters, because that's the neighbour's kitchen right over the fence there, so they haven't complained as yet, and one of their sons is doing up an old motorbike that makes a bit of noise, so I think we're okay there. So I'll start marking that out and putting a fold into it, and I'll come back again soon, I hope. So here I've just put it back on with the magnet again to practice the old adage of measure twice and cut once. So I've just offered it back up, put it back into position, just tidied these cut lines out here that I missed, and just tidied that one up with a texter. And of course I'll cut on the outside of the texter line. I hope to remember to. That bottom pencil line there is roughly the fold line, less material thickness on this hand folder. And just this one up here, just to radius that in. Oh, actually, now that I'm showing you, I just noticed that that's too proud as well, because the original one didn't double up over there, although it wouldn't hurt if it did go up over that. I'll fix that shortly, I think. Let's see how we go. Okay, so far so good. That went in there okay. I'm just about to trace a line around there to get that to sit in a little better. There's too much there, but that was deliberate. I can always flap disc that back. And just here, it's actually overlapping, and I'll just get the light around there. There is a swage in the bottom of the chassis there, and I'll just duplicate that there. So I'll slice that through. I'll get this right first. So yes, I can do that right now. So I'll just tidy that up a little bit. And that one I won't mark. Once I've got this sitting in place properly, I'll just slice the 1mm through there carefully, just to pop that in, and that hopefully should go up. And then I might have to take off a little bit here, because I wouldn't mind there being, say, a 2 or 3mm gap between the original and the replacement section, so I could actually fill it right up with weld. And all up through there, you'll see later, there is substantial plug welds. I'm also going to do plug welded doublers in here, and then down here, right where the rear mount for the front lower arm goes, there is a doubler of sorts that was in the original that you may have seen earlier in the video. but I'll do an insert into this video just to remind you, and I'll show you the detail as I go. So both these will be reinforced. The original chassis, when it rusted through, broke through just in front of that welded in boss under here. So I'm quite happy with the way that's going. It's some real progress. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the fit up so far. There's a bit of a swage, just hand swage there to blend those two pieces in. Side view is probably better, isn't it? That's just sitting there at the moment free, but I'm quite happy with that. It needs to be trimmed because the chassis is 72mm wide, and at the moment this is 41, so it's about is it 5mm too much, but that was intentional because I'd be really sad if it was too narrow. Just coming in here for a moment. I'll just set the light up so we can see a little better. Now I'm learning as I go. Read this. When I put that box section in, I pulled it together and then I forgot that it has to be sandwiched to the chassis to transfer the load for the change of section through here. So I've split that this morning, and what I'll do is I'll either wedge this out, or with the weld plug holes I'll put some self-tappers through and pull it back and then gradually weld it in when the time comes. I can also weld down through that hole there. I can weld here inside and leave those welds basically unfinished. I'm not sure then if I will actually put a doubler there, but what I may do is, once this is split down the middle and joined a seam in the middle on the body chassis section, I may put a strip under there about, say, 20mm wide in tension, and fully weld that up from underneath, which would act as a doubler from the original section here right up to that original section that goes up onto the front chassis frame. But I'll still do side doubler plates, as I mentioned just a little earlier. So I'm really glad I got that done today, because just due to other commitments, even though we're supposedly retired, I've only been averaging about a day a week in the last month, not even that perhaps in some cases. So tomorrow morning, being Sunday, there's a Top of Cars and Coffee event in the next precinct, Hang Dong. So we're going to go to that. So I don't know if there'll be much time left after that to make up the other side, and then I have to start fitting that lower arm rear mount in here. That has to be drilled in, and then there's a couple of reinforcements that transmits the load up through the side there and stops this section from buckling. Ignore that crappy weld just there off to the left, I'm not going to show you. I just stitched it just to try and hold the floor in place roughly and keep some shape while I'm setting all this up. As I said before, I want to get all this at least really securely tacked in. It's very difficult to weld from down there up into the side there to get nice welds. So as I said previously, my engine crane has arrived. I wasn't going to take the motor out, but to weld all that properly on the inside there, I have to be able to kneel in there comfortably to weld all that and finish the welds. So it's nice to see it coming together, I can tell you. It is not so daunting now. Anyway, I think I'll call it on that, and I'll stitch all these videos, edit these videos together tonight, and let you see the progress. Thanks for watching so far. Bye for now.